It's the 4th of July, and we're celebrating with Jack Barry, who just returned from the U.S. Senior Open in Broadmoor, Colorado, or Colorado Springs at Broadmoor.
That is correct. Beautiful, beautiful spot. The Springs is great. It's right below Pikes Peak there, and it's the Broadmoor is, I believe, the only 5-star resort in the country, and is celebrating its centennial this year. So they had the 39th United States Senior Open Championship on their East course, and it was a fantastic show. It was everybody loved it. The course was very, very difficult, the way the USGA usually does it. But no one got too upset. No one played hockey, and although in Colorado, in the Springs, Colorado College is a great hockey school, but it was all golf at the Broadmoor.
Well, the early days were pretty hot, maybe 100, and then the temperature got to be more reasonable.
Dropped, and at night when I stayed at my sister-in-law's up in Monument, in the 50s with the windows open, it was gorgeous. Blue sky, full moon, everything, right in the mountains. It's a terrific place.
Did the temperature affect the play very much?
It was tough. Tom Workmeister, who is our Michigander out there, just turned 50 in March, so he was eligible and got in and played terrific. He made the cut, and Tom said that it would take about 10-15 seconds getting up the hills, catching his breath because of the adjustment. You know, it's over 6,000 feet there. But the temperature dropped on the weekend, and it was marvelous.
Well, Tom had quite a fan club there, too, didn't he?
He did indeed. He had his friends from the golf course out in Granville, Sunnybrook, I think it is, and they all wanted to get out and back him. And as we see, I think we've got a picture of Tom in the middle of his buddies who appeared on Fox Television.
They sure did. We saw him.
Right, on Friday when Tom made the cut. And now he's getting back into golf around here. He's playing their senior championship over at Bedford Valley coming up, and then he's got some Sun Belt tournaments he's going to play, and he's going to try and get qualify for some others. And the really great part is that Tom Gillis turns 50 on July 16th. And the big hope is that both Tom and Tom Gillis will get invitations to play in the Allied tournament at Warwick Hills in September, which would be a terrific idea for the folks who are running the tournament at Warwick Hills to invite these two outstanding Michigan players.
Well, it's fun to see these guys turn an age where they're competitive in a different group.
Very much so. And of course, Tom Workmeister won the Michigan Amateur last year, and I asked him whether he thought that he would have, turned pro a little earlier. He says, I loved it. He says, I wouldn't do anything different. He said, playing the Michigan Amateur last year after he dominated the amateur scene in Michigan for the last decade practically. You won everything in sight in many times. And so he played, distinguished himself out there at the Broadmoor, and he played the final round. He played with Scott McCarron, who is one of the top players on the senior tour. He told Mark Kelbel, who is the golf professional at the Broadmoor, a Michigander, 18 years he's been at the Broadmoor. And Tom asked him if he could get him, introduce him to Paul Asinger, who was doing the telecast for Fox. So, cutting it short, Mark not only got him to meet Asinger, but also Brad Faxon, and got in there, and Tom was delighted.
The whole crew there.
Right.
Well, speaking of Mark Calvert, we had a chance to meet him when we were there in November. The courses were closed. We did have a chance to talk with Mark, and especially about his Michigan roots at the Grand Hotel and so forth.
Right.
But you were having fun in Michigan at a place we all know and love, which is the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. So you really have a long history with Michigan golf before you got here.
I do. I grew up in Michigan. I grew up in Harbor Springs. My two brothers were pros. My brother Pete is now a pro at Walloon Lake's been there for 25, 30 years. My brother Ed sadly has passed, but he was a head golf professional in Michigan for many, many years. The last place there being the Emerald in St. John's there north of Lansing. And my dad was a pro there. He's pro at Walloon, Harbor Point, Bayview. That's where my grandfather was. So we have many, many, many golf ties to Michigan. And needless to say, lots and lots of friends and fond memories. And that's home for me. I love where I live now in Colorado, and my kids love it here. Great place to raise a family. But for me, Michigan is home and always will be.
We were talking earlier about one of your brothers being a great player. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Ed was a high school All-American golfer and an All-State golfer. Went on to play at Michigan State and still holds, I would dare say, probably more than a few course records in northern Michigan from his days as a pro. He was at Bayview and then Sheboygan and then down at St. John's at the Emerald. So he was an outstanding player, as was my dad back in the day. So it was my dad was an easy caddy job. All you did was hand him a driver and an 8-iron and a putter. So and then onto the caddy cut. So that was just what we did.
And so your brother Pete is coaching and has had some success there?
Yeah, my brother Pete's had some great success. He's the head golf coach at Harbor Springs High School. His girls just won the state championship this year. And so Pete's had a great run there. I think they've won the regional 4 years in a row. And he's had some great success. I'm awfully proud of Pete. And he loves being the golf coach there. It's where we were all Rams and grew up there playing golf. So it's really special for our whole family, certainly especially for Pete.
It's such an amazing tradition. So tell us a little bit more about your dad and what kind of a mentor he was in terms of playing golf.
Well, we all worked for my dad. So we grew up in those days, as I tell people, if the child labor laws were enforced, my dad would have been in trouble. But we were with him a lot, and we certainly grew to be comfortable at the golf course and working there. And so through our dad, we were introduced to it, and then we became comfortable at it and proficient at it. And golf is one of those things, if you're at the course, it gets in your blood, and it's hard to find anything else to match that, however it makes you feel. And so we came by it honestly, and we all grew to love it, and we all followed in my dad's.
Right. His family up there, and he still goes up to visit his mother in the winter time. He gets a lot of snow out there, usually in the Colorado winter, and up north it's more icy. But he's having a great time out there. He was professional of the year from the Colorado section, and he's been, as we say, he's been there for 18 years, and that's just a wonderful, wonderful place.
Was that the first time you had a chance to meet him?
No, I've talked to him before a little bit, but first time with it actually we're able to meet him, and it's a privilege. You know, the guy is top grade.
Well, there it is. Michigan is making it all over the place, including in Colorado. Thank you, Jack.
You're welcome.